Hello friends, it's Cassie and welcome back for another video. Today we are going to be playing with the Lighthouse die from Trinity Stamps, and we're also going to be using the layered Peninsula stencil. These two go together beautifully, and I'm going to show you a fun way to use it. And then we're also going to be using an easy light because yeah, I mean, it's a lighthouse and it just screams to play with those easy lights. So I'm so excited to put these three products together and show you how we are going to make it light up. It's going to be a 5x7 card, so grab your stuff. Let's play. All right, I have a piece of navy cardstock that I have trimmed down to 5x7, and I have part of the mask from that layered Peninsula stencil, and I'm going to show you how we can use this down the middle. It won't be perfect, but it will be good enough, and it's going to show you a way that you can extend this stencil even more. All right, so I've got this tacked down onto my tonic platform. I have some broken china distress ink or distress oxide, because that layers beautifully on top of that dark cardstock. And then I'm just going to peel everything away. Notice I did use a mask of some tape on the one side. I'm going to clean off this mask just a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip it. So you notice what I did is I took this mask and I stuck it kind of right down on the middle. Well, now I'm just going to flip it over, and we're just going to kind of hold that in place a little bit. Just make sure that stays kind of where it's supposed to. And then we'll take the stencil and put it right over the top, lining up the waves that we just did. Put that down ever so carefully. Put down some magnets along with that tape, and then we'll use that broken china again. And then we'll just do the rest of the waves. We've masked off where our little cliff is going to be. All right, so now we are going to have to clean off our, well, no, I don't think I clean off the stencil. I don't. And so what we're going to do is take that part of the stencil, which is the cliff part, and we're going to tack it down. So it's a two-part stencil as far as the cliff goes. I'm just using some masking tape to make sure that, you know, like a Post-it tape, so that nothing gets where I don't want it to go. Then we're going to bring in some pumice stone distress oxide, because once again, this is a dark cardstock, so we need an ink that's going to sit on top of that. I will clean off my stencil a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is just flip the stencil over so I can line those up the best I can. Now, once again, like I said, this isn't going to be perfect. There's probably a way that you could make it a little bit better. I wasn't focused so much on that because that middle is going to get kind of covered, but we're just going through that same process over again. And then we're going to use the second part of the stencil to do the other part of the cliff. And so we'll just flip that back over, kind of line that up over the top. And then I'm just going to grab some distress ink in the color Black Soot. That black soot, even though it is not a distress oxide, goes very well over the top of those oxides, and I find it to be a truer black than the actual distress oxide black soot. So, all right, flipping that over. Probably should have cleaned it first. It's fine. I don't line it up perfectly, and in fact, I'm just now getting lazy, and I'm just holding it in place. But it works. You can see. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it does the trick. And like I said, we're also going to kind of cover that middle anyway, so I'm not really worried about whether or not that looks perfect. I want this to be a night sky because, like I said, it's navy blue, so I have my Trinity gold palette. Now, the gold palette that's in the store is a little bit different than this one. It's a little bit smaller. I'll have it linked down below. It doesn't look exactly like what I have. I have the older version. But look at that. We have this beautiful background, night sky, all ready for our lighthouse, which I've cut out of some white cardstock. So I cut out all of the pieces, and then I put all of the small pieces back in place and just tacked those in to the white cardstock using some of that Post-it tape. I'm going to kind of mask off on my lighthouse, and we're going to Copic color. This mask is not going to do a perfect job, because keep in mind, these are alcohol inks. They bleed through a lot of stuff. They're going to bleed through this paper. It's not going to be super bad, but you're going to notice it. It really does not bother me, and I will show you a way to fix it. But I'm just going through with my three colors. I had the R24, R29, and R89. Then I work backwards with the R29, back again with the R24. And you'll notice I don't go all the way to the edge with those darker colors. That gives the illusion that this is a rounded image. So it gives it a little bit more dimension when you do it that way. So you saw when I pulled that tape away that yes, there was some bleed through. Again, not worried about it. I'll show you a way that you can sort of fix it, but perfection is not what I was going for here. All right, same process for all of these parts that I'm going to color red. I'm just going back and forth with those colors that I already showed you. And then we'll move our mask away. You'll see that it bled a little bit. And then we'll do our last bit that we want red the same way that we did the other two. And yeah, if I were smart, I'd probably just get newer tape, but I'm just not worried about it because, like I said, we can mostly fix it. All right, same process. Lots of flicking motions because that also helps in the blending process. And then I'll pull those away, and I do want to have a little bit of some white or gray, I guess. So I brought in a C1 Copic, and I'm just going to do the same process on all the white areas, and I'm not going to add another color to it, just that C1. I thought that was plenty. So here I'm bringing in a white Sakura 8 number 8 gel pen. This is just going to kind of cover up those areas a little bit. Again, it's not perfect. If a person were to look really closely, they'd see it, but it's good enough for me. This is a handmade card, folks, and so I'm okay with it looking a little bit handmade. All right, now I've brought in some C3 and I colored almost all of my images. Then I'm bringing in some C4 and we're gonna color those as well, keeping it inside the paper like I did, just using that Post-it tape on the back just really helps me to keep everything in place, and it makes it that much easier to color everything. You could also do blending if you wanted, but I chose to just stick with the alcohol markers. And then we can start piecing everything together. So this part right here is like the railing for the top of our lighthouse. So I'm going to stick that down. I'm using my reverse tweezers, as you can see, and I'll use that for all those little pieces. And then I just have my Barely Art glue. That stuff is great. It's a nice tiny tip, works perfect for gluing tiny pieces like this on there. So we're just going through and gluing all of those pieces onto the lighthouse. I love this lighthouse. Like most dies, I mean, bigger dies like this that are put together, they can be a little bit intimidating when you look at them at first, but it's just so easy to put it together, and I love the effect and the look of it. I feel like this could make some super easy masculine cards, and I'm always looking for those. So we put our bottom piece on, and do you notice the texture on that one? That looks like a cobblestone. It's really cool. All right, and then we'll put our little frames around our windows. Did get a little glue happy, but that's okay. That dries clear. And we'll do it for all three. It's just those little finishing touches, you know. But this came together really, really quickly, honestly. I had the idea in my head, and we just kind of went with it. And it was a pretty fast process. So now our lighthouse is done, and we're going to stick that on top of our background because everything's good and dry, and we're just going to use liquid glue, avoiding our windows and any open areas, and we'll just glue this down in place. And then our next step, because I want this to be a light up, is to poke holes where I want my lights, and that's going to be through those windows. So I'm just poking holes, just making sure that I have a nice hole behind those. And then when I'm happy with that, we're going to take a piece of vellum and we're just going to glue that behind. That's on the back. And the reason I'm doing that is mostly because those holes are a little bit bigger, and I do want there to be a little bit of filter, I suppose is what I'm thinking, just to soften the light, and it'll spread that light out a little bit more by using that vellum. All right, so now we're going to pull out our Easy Light, and I have 2 left in this pack. So I'll pull out my battery, and then I'll break apart my Easy Light. Save this for another card, which will probably happen soon because I just make cards with these all the time. I'm obsessed, and everybody who gets them is obsessed too. So it's fun. All right, so here we go. We have our mechanism. We just take our battery, follow the directions. The plus goes with the plus. Put that inside, check and make sure everything's working, and you're done. You're done with putting it together. And then the next step is just to put your lights where you want them. So I hold them in place with washi tape. I just make sure that my light is facing forward and it is right on the hole. And then I put that washi tape right up against the light. So I do that for all 3 of my lights. I'm not so worried about where my push button is going to be right now. We can figure that out later. The lights are really the most important part. So now that those are all in place, we'll flip it over and make sure everything's working and you can see them. And you can. So now I'll kind of get the idea of where I want the lights. I end up screwing up a little bit, and by screwing up I mean I should have just trimmed down my cardstock, but I can do it after and you'll see me do this. So I'm just pulling out more washi tape and just sticking this down in place. And I did even go so far as to glue down my mechanism, but here I was like, oh, I wanted there to be a little bit of a white border, and I had cut this to be exactly 5 by 7. So I'm just going to cut off about 1/8 of an inch on all 4 sides. I'm not measuring perfectly, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And then once I get all 4 of those, as long as I avoid the wires, I don't cut any wires, we're good. And I didn't, so there you go. Now I can put down my mechanism a little bit better. And because I used washi tape, everything can just be moved as needed. So we'll peel that back, pull those wires back under, and yeah, it looks like a hot mess back there, but that is okay. It doesn't have to look good back there. And now we need some foam tape. So regular foam tape would work, but you would have to double it up because you do want to make sure, especially if you're sending this through the mail, that you give your push button plenty of room to not be on all the time. And part of the reason why I like to have my batteries towards the side is if just in case the recipient, you know, has so much fun playing with it that they wear the battery out, they can always replace it. Because I do send these to my nieces and nephews and stuff, so it's super fun. All right, this foam tape that I did use is not a doubled up foam tape. It's just a thicker foam tape. It's 3 millimeters. And I put that all over that back, and now I'm just pulling off all of that release paper. Like I said, regular foam tape would work fine. You just have to make sure that you double it up. I'll stick that down onto my 5 by 7 card base, and now I need to come up with my sentiments. So I'm using this Push Here from our Little Light stamp set, which is a new one, and that is, again, another light up card you could make. And then I stamped out Sending Birthday Wishes. That one comes from our Party Gnome stamp set, another new one. And then I stamped everything using some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, cut down my Sending Birthday Wishes, and then I just have a little 1/2 inch circle punch. I'm going to punch that out. That says Press Here. And then I'll use my liquid glue, put a little glue on the back, find out where my button is. There it is. And we can put our Push Here there. Perfect. And then we'll glue down our sentiment. And that's it, folks. This was such a fun card, great masculine card, or for anybody really. And it's light up. Who doesn't like a light up, right? All right, friends, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Trinity Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day.